The kitchen still carried its heat when I stepped inside. Garlic lingered, rosemary too, and on the white enamel of the stove a single droplet of red sauce had hardened, a stain that looked almost like blood against porcelain. Her apron, the yellow one, hung over the back of a chair, twisted through itself like a noose waiting for a neck. I didn't bother with the lights. The rooms didn't need illumination. Every wall, every surface, seemed to echo with what had almost happened but didn't. Plates neatly stacked, napkins folded, candles waiting for a spark that never came. 23 place settings untouched. A celebration for no one. She had been preparing since Thursday. A flower pinned in her hair. Her eyes swollen but shining with determination. She wanted to impress them, her mother's family. A lineage she never got to inherit. A grandmother she never met. A tongue she never learned. To them, she was always decoration, something they never chose to wear. But she cooked every dish, every course by hand. All of it for a family that had already decided she wasn't enough. They dismissed her with a text. 15 hours before everything was to begin, her younger aunt, the peppermint-scented one, sharp with disdain, sent a single message, change of plans. Party at La Voluto. Adults only. Not even addressed to her. Not even to me. Her name wasn't spelled right. That was all it took to erase days of labor. I found her sitting on the kitchen floor that evening, cross-legged, shoulders bent, frozen with her phone lying open in her lap. Her fingers carried the smell of onions, but more than that, of disappointment. The oven hummed behind her, its forgotten crust burning, cracking apart like dry soil. She didn't shift, didn't speak. I didn't either. We stayed there like carved stone figures while the smoke rose around us, carrying something less visible, her unraveling, the fragile thread of trust she had still been clinging to breaking in silence. She didn't cry. She didn't even ask why. By morning she stood, methodical, and began boxing each untouched dish. She worked with the precision of someone disassembling herself piece by piece. The freezer filled with meals destined never to be eaten. Yet she labeled each container carefully, as if writing hope into plastic. At noon my wife came downstairs, red dress clinging to her like someone I didn't recognize. Gold earrings, perfume thick enough to haunt the hallway even after she was gone. She never looked at the food. She never looked at her daughter. Just tossed out a thin, dismissive line she'll understand. She didn't. I did. I stayed until dusk. Then I acted. The restaurant crouched on the edge of downtown. Windows frosted to blur the laughter inside. La Voluto. I cut the engine lights out, watching as the metal ticked with its cooling. Their cars filled the lot. Plates I knew, vanity tags I couldn't miss. Fame. BLS. Adia. Mama of girls. Inside, the celebration thrived. Toasts rose, glasses chimed, steak smoke carried into the street. And the cake, a gaudy monument of fondant and sugar flowers, stood tall, no doubt bought by the same hands that had discarded my daughter's effort as if it were sour milk. I didn't storm inside. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I took out my phone and sent my wife 3 pictures. The long dining table set for 23, the ruined pie cracked into dust, and my daughter asleep on the couch, hand curled mid-motion like she was still whisking in her dreams. Then I shut my phone off. 15 hours later, pounding rattled the door. Knuckles, fists, the kind of rhythm guilt makes when it's late. I opened slowly. She stood there, hair wild, mascara streaking her face, voice hoarse from shouting into phones that never answered. Why did you send those? Why didn't you pick up? Why would you do this? She shoved past me, yanked the freezer open, pulled out one of the containers, stared at the label, as if reading something she could never understand. Then she screamed. I didn't. I simply watched as the storm she created finally tore into herself. The family followed soon after. Sisters, mother, cousins, friends, all pouring into the house with apologies that fluttered around like scraps of paper. Too late. Worthless. One leaned toward my daughter to hug her, but she pulled back, silent, wiping her calloused hands against her jeans. I stood by the window looking out while voices clashed in the hall. Someone wept, someone shouted. My wife's words circled over and over. How could you let this happen? I never replied. Instead, I went to the freezer, pulled out a single container, warmed it carefully. Risotto, mushroom, thyme. Still intact, still alive. I placed it before my daughter, who sat curled on the chair, knees tucked tight. She tasted it one small bite. She didn't smile, but she didn't cry either. We ate together, quiet. At last she asked, "Do they even see me?" I didn't dress the truth in softness. I said no. By sunrise, the house had emptied of visitors. The shouting was gone. The table bare. The fridge still full. My daughter, pen in hand, bent over a notebook she had never opened until that morning. On the first page she wrote, "Know who you're feeding." The house rested again. Not hollow, not bruised, but real. Outside, the sun climbed without hesitation, as if nothing had ever fractured. Inside, something had shifted. Quietly, permanently. When I closed the freezer, I caught sight of the final label she had written. A word I didn't say aloud. A word that meant more than the food it named.